Well, hi everyone. This is Don Smith, and I would like to welcome you to the July tip of the month. What I want to do in this video is show you how I start with three raw images captured from a drone that I was flying the other evening here in my hometown of Morro Bay, California. You can see it's a beautiful area where the Pacific comes in and it meets the bay, which they call Morro Bay, and just a really, really beautiful spot to live. We feel, Barry and myself, feel really fortunate to be able to live in this area, photograph in this area, and just kind of explore our new surroundings. So this is really not going to be a video so much on processing as it is on figuring out what I call reading images. And what I mean by that is before we can even start to process an image, we need to have the ability or the foundation in place to look at an image and read it and think about what direction we would like to take it. I'm going to fall back on an old quote of Ansel Adams where he talked about in his three favorite, or my three favorite books that he ever had written called The Negative, the Camera, excuse me, The Camera, The Negative, and The Print. You can find these on Amazon. They can totally translate to what we're doing today as photographers in a digital realm. And I guess we could change it up and call it the digital camera, the digital file, and the digital print. Other than that, the way Ansel thought about all three, where he talks about in the camera about, just how you compose different lenses, how the camera sees versus how we see, aperture, shutters, all of that technical jargon, it's all in there. Then he moves in. Obviously, he was capturing a negative, and back in the day, he was capturing 8 by 10 negs, believe it or not, working with a huge 8 by 10 camera. And we're capturing these digital files that I think probably surpass the quality of 8 by 10 negatives. I used to shoot 4 by 5 negatives and slide film, and I can tell you these digital cameras are well beyond the resolution of what we were capturing back in the day. So then he would take that negative and he would move into the darkroom. And that's where he was truly a master. And I try to teach people in my workshops that I really break the process of photography up into two different parts these days. Part one is being on location, which I absolutely love. And it's knowing how to read the light, compose the scene. As you're going to see in these three images I'm going to show you here, I've recently purchased a new drone and entered into the world of drone photography. I'm just getting my feet wet. I'm a complete novice. Fortunately, I haven't crashed and burned my drone, but I'm having a blast. But everything is the same as if I was to go out with my cameras and shoot from ground level, other than instead of paying hundreds or even thousands of dollars to hire a helicopter, I'm now doing it with a small controlled drone, and I'm sitting back, literally sitting. The other night when I was doing this, I was sitting at a bench to the left of this scene at Morro Bay, looking down on the gorgeous sunset light here. We're looking out at an area known as Point Bouchon. It's out Montana de Oro State Park. And if you went around the corner there and down the coastline about 6 miles, you would arrive at the Diablo Canyon Nuclear Power Plant, which I'm not allowed, obviously, to fly over there, but I am allowed to fly in this area. So let's move on. I'm going to show you what the camera captured, and I shot all these files in RAW mode, which appears digital negatives. And this is simply what the camera captured, but then I want to impart my own sense of what I was seeing and the warmth of the light at sunset. So I'm going to walk you through kind of the stages of how I did this. And then we're going to come to picture number 2, which you're looking back now from the Pacific Ocean. And the bay in the Pacific Ocean here is called Estero Bay. And you're looking into the inner bay, which is called Morro Bay. And then the homes of Morro Bay, and back there in amongst the trees is where I live, Barry and I. And like I said, it's just an absolutely gorgeous place. And I'm going to show you how I transformed this image into more of the sunset light, that golden light that Barry and I were seeing. And then finally, I just got a kick out of this. I just did this a couple hours ago. I actually did a pano of 4 shots looking north up the bay of Morro Bay. And this again, the sun had just set. If you look to the left of the rock, that big rock there is called the Morro Rock. It's a volcanic plug. There's a string of these from San Luis Obispo off to the right of about 9 of them, and they're called the 9 Sisters. This is the 9th of the 9 sisters that used to actually be an island, but they blew parts of the rock off and filled in the jetty area. You see, that's the entrance to the Morro Bay Harbor. And over to the right, that's a parking area for what we call the Morro Strand, if you'd let your eyes go up and around where those smokestacks are. By the way, those 3 smokestacks are kind of iconic here in the area. You either think they're an eyesore or you grow to love them. When I first moved here, I thought those were the ugliest things. That's an old PG&E power plant, abandoned, and it has since been bought by a company called Vistra. They're going to tear that all down. They're supposed to start any time. I think they're just going through the environmental impact report, as if I understand it. Those are going to come down along with the building, and it's going to be replaced by the world's largest battery facility that can hook onto the grid, because we have the infrastructure in place here because of Diablo Canyon. And Diablo Canyon, for those of you that don't know, it's the last remaining nuclear power plant on the West Coast. It is going to go offline starting in 2024. Reactor number 1 will go down, and then in 2025, I believe, the second reactor will go down. There's still no definitive plans of what they're going to do with it, but I'm just completely hoping they open up the whole area out there, because it is one of the most beautiful stretches, 14 miles of coastal stretches where there's arches and spires and rock formations. It's just absolutely gorgeous, and I hope they open it up. So this was a 4-frame pano, just hovering the drone and just playing with the orientation of the camera. And this is how I brought it into fruition. And so what I'm going to do now is we're going to hop out of Lightroom, and we're going to come on over into Photoshop. And we're going to start, actually, let me get all of this good stuff out of the way. We're going to actually start with the 4-image pano. And I'm going to show you, again, I'm not going to run through and show you everything. I process, if you've watched my videos, you know I process pretty exclusively with the TK8 panel. And I know there's a lot of panels out there. You don't have to write and let me know that. I appreciate when you do write, but I do know there's a lot of panels. If you're new to panels and you're asking, what the heck are you talking about? It's all about masking. And it's really, let's back up to, let me go, well, this is not going to allow me to back up. So let's just jump into Photoshop, which I'm already in, and I was thinking I was in Lightroom. So let's come on over here, and I'm going to show you what a panel does and how we can take this image and make it look like this. So I'm going to, every one of these in a layer palette in Photoshop is a layer I've worked on. And before I start in, I'm going to turn actually all of this off and get back to how the image looked in its raw format coming out of the camera. Um, when I process, and let's get all of that out of the way so we can talk about this. Again, this is the raw file. This is not the finished image. When I process, it is a series of steps. And I always will start in Lightroom. And I will do some basic balancing in Lightroom in the basic panel. If I need a little bit more balancing, I will do it in the tonal curve. And then I will drop down to the detail tab where there's the noise reduction and the sharpening. I do not do any noise reduction any longer in Lightroom because Topaz Denoise AI is so fantastic. If you don't know about it, go to my website, Don at donsmithphotography.com. On the left side of the home screen, as you were watching images scroll up on a slideshow, you will see a link for discounts and affiliates, and you click there, you'll get 10% off. Two products by Topaz I really love, and that is Topaz Denoise and Topaz Sharpen. I can tell you the camera that's on board my drone produces very sharp images, almost too sharp in my opinion, and I don't need to do any sharpening with these images. But the other link I want to talk about, because we're going to talk about it in this video that's there for a discount, is Luminar Neo. And so let's dive in. Let's get back to all these panels. If everything you see over here, this is all the Tony Kuiper panels, I highly recommend it. Honestly, this is going to be the best $29.99 investment you've ever made in software. And for those of you to go, oh, I never go into Photoshop, I can do everything in Lightroom. No, you can't. You cannot do everything in Lightroom for one simple reason. You don't have the ability to do multiple layers. And I should take that back a little because Lightroom is starting to make a step forward in that with their masking layers. But again, I don't have the total control that I have here in Photoshop. So, you know, stick with me, see what this is all about, and I just might change your mind on all of this. So anyway, what you can see is I've worked on 3 images here. I'm going to turn all of these back to their raw state right out of the camera. And let's scroll down. And the way I intend to do this video is I'm just going to walk you through turning on each one of these layers. And if I can remember everything I did, bear with me if I can't. But I'm a seat of the pants processor. What that means is I'm going to look at this overall image and I'm going to break it up into sections. And that's really what masks allow you to do. It's very finite. All masks mean, if you've never worked with them, is you can add a white mask or a black mask or a gray mask. Usually I'm just working with a black and white mask. White reveals what I want to do and black hides what I want to do. So as you're going to see as we move along in here, let me go ahead and click the second one where it just says color grading. What I did is I selected the sky. And I'll point out where all of these are in the Tony Kuiper panel. Right there is the sky selection. You could also come up here and you could go to layer and you could come down and, no, I think you go to image, excuse me. I don't use this anymore, so I'm really bad. I'm looking for select sky. There it is. It's going to be under select. I know it's in here somewhere. And where are you? That would be lit up, but because I've already worked on this image, it's not, okay? So with the Tony Kuiper panel, he's just taken everything, what I just did here, hunting and pecking 4 things, and he's put it in a convenient panel. Then over here, he's allowing you to select your mask, and then he's allowing, this will light up once you select. He'll let you refine your mask. For example, if I just wanted to work in here on the water, I could create a mask for that, black everything else out here, and just simply work on the water. All right, So let's go through that. That's the best way I can explain a mask. White reveals, black conceals or black hides. Okay, let's click here. That says color grading. So what I did is I did a mask just based on the sky. And then I took it in. I'm going to do this the first time to show you guys this. I took it into a color panel here, or excuse me, the the color grading panel. You can see it lets me select to work on shadows, midtones, or highlights. And it gets, I can work on the luminosity of all of those, and I can work on the color of all of those. And this is just your basic color wheel of your primaries, which are red, green, and blue, and their secondary colors, which is cyan, magenta, and yellow. So red and cyan. Okay, if you got too much red, you would add cyan. You go to green. If you have too much green, you would add magenta. Too much blue, you would add yellow. And conversely, we could go the other way. If you had too much yellow, you add blue. Too much magenta, you add green. Too much cyan, you add red. You don't even have to think about it because Tony puts it all right up in here. And I know we have color grading in Lightroom, but when you combine it with being able to create a mask, it's just ultra powerful. So let me click out of there. So what you can see here is what I've done is all I did was I worked on the sky here. I darkened down the darker parts and I brought up some of the reds. And let's see, I'm going to have to kind of go through this. Okay, so this is for the land now. This is going to be for this over here. I did another. What I did is basically I took the sky mask, which was that, and I came up here and I inverted that mask. So I'm working on everything down here on the land. And I'm going to turn that on, or right here, I'll turn it on. So the land to me looked a little dark. It needed to kind of be more balanced. And it's not really doing a whole lot right in there. But I remember I went back and I set a white point and I set a black point and I kind of lightened that up. Let me show you. I can go back in here. Let's see if maybe I accidentally reset it. I'm going to, oh, this isn't going to let me do it. No, it's going to want me to go into a curves layer. There is a way of doing this. I have forgotten and I apologize, but let's move on. That would be in another video that I've done on working with the color grading tool. Now I've gone to color grading number 2. That's where I lightened it up right there. Okay, that makes sense. So let's turn that off. And so what I did is I protected my highlights and I protected my shadows, basically my whites and blacks, and then I lifted the midtones up. And that's what this did. See how it's kind of flat? But if I anchor down the white points and the black points and I lift the midtones up, now that image starts to feel a little more balanced with the sky. It's not so dark. All right, let's go to color grading 3 and see if I can figure out what I did here. I actually bumped in, I think in the water here. Let's take a look. It's the same mask, but I think I brought up the reflection in the water. So let's turn that off. That's what I did. See how it's cool? The water is kind of bluish. It didn't look right, right? Because we've got warm clouds up in here reflecting this warm light down in the Pacific and in here into the inner Morro Bay. Okay, so let's go now to the next one. And I'm going to actually have to take a look at the mask, you guys. So the mask, everything in white, you can see what's selected. And I know what I did there. I toned it down. I just took the luminosity slider in the color grading panel and I pulled down on it. So see how that's, and I warmed it up also. So see that? I added some warmth. And probably I didn't pull it down. Now looking at it, I'm just seeing I added some warmth. Okay, now layer 2 I added, and I just went back into Adobe Camera Raw, which I'll show you right here. I'm not going to do this for every image again, but let's go up into the basic panel, and it's not going to retain my settings because when you go into Adobe Camera Raw through Photoshop, you're going into a filter. You're not actually going back to like Adobe Camera Raw in Lightroom where it will retain all your settings. This is a filter, and that's an important thing to know. So that's why you can't see my settings. But I was watching the histogram and I wanted to get it a little more balanced up there. And I pulled it down, which made the sky look really nice. But it made the landmass, again, look really dark. So what I did, before I turn on the next layers, I went up here into the TK panel and I added a number 3, what we call a midtone mask. You got a 1, it'll select a range of tones. And what it's going to do is it's not going to alter the black or white point. That's the cool thing about it. And let me go back in and turn that on and get out of here. So let's turn it off and turn it on so you can see the difference. It's going to be in the next one right here. Oops, maybe it wasn't in the next one. Yeah, it did lighten it up just a hair. Okay, it's hard to see, but it did lighten it up. And then the last thing I went is I removed some of the boats. If I turn this all off, actually I did this before. There was a half a boat in here, another half a boat in there, and I had forgotten to get rid of them. So I did it. I did it up in this section, and then that's why. Excuse me. Let me go back. That is why I had that layer on. There we go. This is now. You're good. This is where I had put the Midtones 3 mask in and lifted up. Now you can see it lightening up. I was even wondering where I went wrong. So I'm sorry. I've been working on these for quite a while today. And just keep getting things a little more balanced. Content aware fill. I must have taken something out there. I'm not sure what it was. It wasn't a boat. And then finally, I went to layer 3, which I forgot to label here, but it was probably just pulling down because I thought that looked. Actually, I'm not so sure I like that now. Let's, this is a good thing when you're editing. Now, let me come up to the opacity and take whatever I did off of there. I may have added something I didn't really want. And yeah, I think I kind of like that. Let's do one other thing. Let's add in a number 3 mask. And I'm going to attach it to that layer. There we go. That looks kind of cool. Now it's leaving. Whoops, let's let it render. Yeah, I think that's better now. So again, we've went from here to here, and I just I want to get all this stuff out of the way. And there's the finished image, which I really like. My wife happened to walk in. For those of you who hear me talk about Barry all the time, and for those of you taking workshops from me, Barry's the one you will communicate with if you are signing up for one of our workshops. And this is kind of the finish. She walked in and said, "Oh my gosh, we got to print that and hang it somewhere." We're running out of wall space. I don't know where we're going to hang this, but it is kind of it's a cool shot, and I kind of like it. All right, let's move on to the second one. I flew the drone. Oops, I didn't want to do that. Let me back out of that. I flew the drone over the sand spit. You can see the far southern edge of Morro Bay back in here. This used to be, this area used to connect back in the day. I don't know when they filled this in. And it was called, and still is called till today, Shark Inlet. So I know out in this area, there's a lot of great whites over here off of Montanadero, or I have a neighbor friend of mine who's a surfer was actually bit and drug 100 yards out by a great white. And if you guys are into Shark Week at all on Discovery Channel, just 2 nights ago, they did an hour-long episode called Fatal Christmas. It's kind of a terrible title, but back on Christmas Eve, over by the Morro Bay Rock, unfortunately, a boogie boarder was killed by an 18-foot great white. So Barry and I have kayaks, but we stay in the inner bay. We don't go out on the outer bay out here. And there is a lot of great whites. You live next to an ocean, you got to be aware that you know, and they swim right out about in this area, which you got to be aware of if you're out there. So anyway, back to photography, you guys. Let's turn this off and walk through this image of what I did. So this first one, I went in and I just color graded the entire image to make it a little bit more warm. It's probably still not as warm as I want it. We were really right at the point where the sun was just skimming over before it dipped in. See this dark blue band out here above the water? That was a band of fog. Okay, so then I'm going to come to this next one there, and this is where I used a mask. I just wanted to warm that sand up. So see how cool it doesn't affect, like it doesn't affect the ocean. If I didn't have this mask, watch this. I'm going to cancel the mask out. Look at how ugly everything looks. But by the mask, you can just control what it is you want. That's what's so cool about masking. All right, so now I can see this next one. Let's go turn this on. Let's turn it off, first of all. I thought it was too blue up here in the sky. There was too much blue color, and I wanted to neutralize that a little more. So I selected the sky, which created this mask, and then I just went in to my color grade, and I added a bit of yellow, because yellow on the color wheel is opposite of blue, so that neutralized that blue up on top there. Then I started to do some dodging and burning, and this goes back to the darkroom days. For those of you who've never worked in an old darkroom, it was great. But if you burned, that meant you just added light to a certain area. And the way we used to burn in a darkroom is we'd take a big piece of cardboard and cut a hole in the middle. And then as the print came up, as we were exposing the print, we would go, okay, well, let's say if I needed to burn down that portion of the sky, I would hold that cardboard over and let the light from the enlarger just hit that side. And so what I did here, as you can see, I simply burned down that sky a little bit. And then dodging was just the opposite. So dodging, I'm going to turn that on. And I see over here in the mountain, I wanted to lighten that up. And the way we used to do this in the old darkroom days is we'd take like a coat hanger or any piece of wire, and then we would take some masking tape and attach it to the end of the wire and kind of double it over 2 or 3 times. And then we'd cut around it with a pair of scissors and make like a circle out of it. So we got very finite. Like I could hold the wire and the little circular over here and just dodge it up. Well, now in the darkroom or in the digital darkroom, I can just do it with a brush. And then I added another burn layer. Let's see where I did that. I can see, I always look on the edges of my images and I want to work the viewer's eye off the edge. So let me take this off. You see how that lightens up over there? That's kind of a big tug, that these sand dunes over here and down in here. The rest of the frame was really good, but I just thought I had it's kind of putting up a subtle, like a graduated stop sign or a graduated filter for us, you know, whoa, I don't keep coming over here. Let me take it off again, put it back on. So that's all kind of done to taste. Okay, so this one, I stamped the layer, and what that means is all these layers underneath, there is a command that you hold down, the Shift, Option, Command, and E on a Mac, or Shift, Alt, Command, and E on a PC. And then I ran what I did on this is I ran I tried to balance out the color. I thought I overdid it on the warmth, but I took too much out of it. So I went back in and I graded down the sky a little bit up here. And then I just pulled the entire mid-tone section down using a number 3, no, that's actually a number 2 mid-tone mask. And remember, we grabbed it up here, right there in the Tony Kuiper panel. Excuse me for doing that. And now I've got the image. I think that's the last layer from where I started to where I wanted to go. Okay? So again, you have to look at the image and you have to ask yourself, what's the next step? What is it that I want to do? And you keep taking a step at a time. And when I finally get to the point that I ask myself, what's the next step? What do I need to do? And the answer is nothing. Then you've kind of reached the end. You've gotten to the point where I think you've had a finished image. Then what I would advise you to do is to go away from your computer. Go just walk away, cleanse your eyes for about 5 minutes, and then come back in. And I'll guarantee you'll spot a couple of really important things. A, you're going to see if you got a bad color cast on your image, because the longer you stare at an image, the more accepting your eye brain will be of intense colors that may look blah. You know what I mean? So cleanse your eyes, get away from the computer, come back. Number two, you'll come back and you'll actually be able to see if there's portions of the image that are still too dark, still too light. I know I went back and I played with this mountain a little, but the light's so flat on this mountain, I could have added some contrast, but it started to become a distraction, and I don't want distractions in my image. Everything here was about this beautiful light of these sand dunes, and I know I clicked a lot of images through here because I wanted to get the most whitewater I could to get some action up here in the waves. In the wintertime, I would get a lot more out in here because we would have better swells, but the summertime, the waves are pretty calm around here, and that was the best one I could get. All right, let's go to our last image. I really, really loved this image. I had sent the drone way out, and you could see the sun was just on the last legs of hitting the sand dunes here, lit up all the boats in Morro Bay. There's, I know this isn't a straight landscape image because here's the hillside of Morro Bay. It continues way off in here. This whole area back here is an area known as Baywood and Los Osos. This is the south end of the bay, and the estuary curves around here. And we actually have two creeks that feed the estuary. And an estuary is just where fresh water meets salt water. And this bay can get really empty at low tide, where, especially a negative tide. This is the main channel here that runs all the way down in through here. That's why you see the boats in the main channel and not spread out in here. This area at low tide can go down to just muck and mud. So, okay, so let's walk through the last one here. You can see right off the bat, I did a mid-tone color grade here. And I added that warm light back in that I was seeing. And then I added that stamp layer. That's that Shift Option Command E or Shift Alt Command E. Tony gives it to you right here, just in one click. You don't have to even think about it. Then I went to work on the sky. I really broke this image into 3 sections. There was this ocean, which I thought should have looked a little more green. The turquoise in this ocean is amazing. I wanted to work on what we call the sand spit here. And then the nice warm light hitting the hills. This one's called Black Hill. Hollister Peak's right up in here. Right back in here is the Morro Bay Golf Course. It's really just a beautiful, beautiful area. And then back behind those hills where you're seeing this mountain, this is back where San Luis Obispo, Cal Poly University. Actually, Cal Poly University would be right over in here. Cuesta Junior College probably right off over in here. So let's move along. So I'm going to work on the sky here. There was some nice, beautiful kind of pinks and purples up in the sky. Not purples, I'd say more pink. So the first thing I did is I sort of neutralized the sky because I thought there was too much blue in it once again. I noticed this camera on this drone, it over records the blues in my opinion, but that's okay. That's why we shoot in RAW mode. And we figure it out later. And here's the mask that was created to just isolate the sky. And then you can see I came up to the next one here, and I started in on isolating the ocean. And what I wanted to do was bring back that nice kind of turquoise green. And I'm going to point out something here because I didn't see it till right to the end. I missed this section in here. See that? But I catch it right at the end, and I'll show you how I did it. And then what I wanted to do is I wanted to grab this sky down because it was so kind of neutral. There was no gradation from dark to light. So to keep your eye from drifting up to the top of the frame there, I pulled that down. Now there's a hot spot in the sky right underneath here, and because I'm looking, the sun's over my over the drone shoulder really, and it's behind the drone, so I'm looking east, so there'd be no color under there. But we're in the digital age, so I was able to bring that down. I was able to tone it down. Let me show you the mask. Look at that mask. All I did was select that little band of light there, and that gave me the ability to just control that through the color grading panel. And all I did is I went to my whites, and you can see I tugged my whites down. That's as simple as it is. So then I came up and I stamped again. And the reason I stamp is every time I want to start in on a new section of the photo, I'll add a stamp. A lot of times you don't have to, but every once in a while I'll get caught in something. So it's just sort of a habit of mine that I do. You can see there's a lot of layers on here. So let's continue. This one now, I say I color graded, but probably the change is in there. And I think what I did was I was just playing a little bit with the greens here of the foliage, whatever that was. Or I was playing, no, excuse me, I was playing with the clouds. Well, the mask is going to tell me. Let's turn it on. Nope, I was playing with the hotspot. So I was probably trying to add, yeah, you can see I added a little warmth into the hotspot. That's what I did. Let's come back to the next layer and I'll see what I did. Let's check. So now is where I'm going to go to work on the clouds here. Sorry, I keep doing that, gang. I don't know. I got to figure a way around that. And you can see I bumped up just the little pinks up there in the clouds to give them a little more definition. And here I brought up some more color, and I brought it out in this area. Excuse me, I'm on the wrong layer. Let's go up here. This is the mask I wanted to show you. This, I wanted to warm up the land mass now. So I didn't want to work on the sky or the inner bay or the outer bay. I wanted to work on the land mass. So what I did is I just warmed it up through the color grading. I just kind of moved it a little towards red, and that wasn't much, and that just brought out that warmth in the sand. Now, these are a little more tricky to do. These are called paint color. I knew there was a little more color in these clouds back, up in here. So I added a layer and I intensified these first. And then I added another paint to bring these up. It's really hard to see on this. It's popping out on my screen. I don't know if it's popping out on your screen through the video. And then I saw these two little birds catch kind of a weird looking light. So I stamped everything and I went in with content aware fill, which Tony gives you a button right here. And I took those two birds out. That's what I did there. And then I walked away and I came back in and I said, man, it's just looking a little too warm overall for me. So you can see I'm going to add a neutralized color cast here, which is that. And I thought that made it look a little more from too vibrant. You know, sometimes we can just go too much on these things. It just looks, I remember Michael Fry, who's a great photographer, lives up in the Yosemite area. And Michael, if you're listening to this, I'm going to steal a term of yours I read in a blog of yours once. It makes it look too cartoonish if you go over the top with your colors. So I just toned it down a little. And then I burned in this area right here with the burn tool. And Tony gives you a burn tool. I don't use Photoshops. I use burn, I use dodge, and I use it with a 50% gray layer. It's real simple. Then I added another stamp. We're getting there now. And then I'm going to color grade the whole image again. Went back in. I still wasn't satisfied. And I brought up the warmth just a tad bit more. And then I added another color cast reduction. And where all of these are found in Tony's, he gives you all these actions that he's already written. Really cool, from vignettes to freehand vignettes to Orton effects, here's where I went, neutralize color cast number 2. I only go with number 1 unless I'm really like went way over the top. And then I know a lot of you are Luminar users, and so am I. I love Luminar. I wanted to see if I could take this image into Luminar and use their enhance, it's the landscape warmer. I'm forgetting what they call it now. Enhanced landscape or warm landscape, something like that. But I was going to do it with a mask. Well, the way you have to do it is you have to add a stamp layer, which I did here, and you don't add the mask. Then you go in and you add the effect, but just let your eye kind of look at where you want it to go. And then when you come out, you add a mask. And the way I can show you it here is I can select the mask and I can turn it off. And you can see how it really pumped the image almost too much. So I wanted to protect it. I added a number 3 Midtones Mask, and I thought it just toned it down while retaining these beautiful hues up in here of the water. And the way I fixed this is I just selected, if I can't remember where that was, let's go back, and if I can show you this real quickly. Oh, it was way back in here. Hold on. Let's see where I worked on the water. It was this level here, or this layer, excuse me. Remember how I said I missed that area? Well, I went back in here, and let me just turn all these eyeballs back on for you guys. Now I'm going to have to do it each layer. That's all right. And we'll just keep working our way up. So a lot of layers. So I look at each layer as the next step, but I forget which step in the process I did it. But I just took the lasso tool, feathered it a little, selected that little area, went into the color grade and just added a little green until it matched out with these greens. And it was as simple as that. You know, as I look at this now, because I haven't really had time to be away from this last image because I just did this before I started the recording, I might pull that down just maybe about in there with the opacity slider. I think that's punching it again, and a little too cartoonish. I like that. And if I wanted to, I could bring back the sky, because it does take the whole sky and the water. Let me show you how to do that. You come down to the bottom here, and you're gonna add what we call a group. Then I'm gonna select this Luminar group and push it up. And then I'm going to select the group again, and I'm going to add a mask. Now, white is showing everything, so I'm going to grab a B for brush, and I'm going to bring this brush up quite a bit. I don't have the brush. There it is. And, okay, why are you not coming up? Let me select on there again. Well, okay, we'll do it this way. We're going to go to 100% opacity, and I'm going to drag the size of the brush up even more. Let's get it way up there. I should be able to do that with my right and left key. And for some reason, do I have my cap locks on? Well, I've been stumped myself here. Let's go back to B for brush, and I got to select the mask. Well, it's not wanting me to do it. Well, anyway, I don't know why that isn't working, but what I would do, you know what? It picked up this group mask where I was working over here. Aha. So let's go here. Let's just add a stamp layer. Stamp layers are awesome, you guys. And I'm going to take this mask and I'm going to delete it. I'm going to pull it down in here, hit delete. And we're just going to throw that up in there. We're going to come back and add a mask. Now if I go to B for brush, no, it still doesn't want to work. I've made a mistake somewhere, so let's just turn these all off and we'll forget about it. But I would, what I'm trying to show you that I would do is, let's come back to this. I would take the opacity down. Then if I wanted to add it in on the water, I could paint that back out and add it in on the sky. Okay, I hope all that makes sense. That's a lot. I even got confused there at the end. I'll have to go back and figure out what I did. It's something in the group setting. that I did wrong. So I hope, again, what I'm trying to point out by giving you this demonstration is instead of just willy nilly going into your processing programs and tugging on sliders and going, is that right? You got to have a roadmap. You got to know what it is you want to do. And then you got to have the ability to know how to go in and affect just that part of the image. Now, the cool thing I will say about Luminar Neo is you started out with Luminar, which used to allow you to do masks. So you could work on the overall and then you could mask out what you didn't want, or vice versa, just create a mask for what you did want. It's not as precise as what Tony's can do, but it's, it's ballpark if you just want to work with Luminar. But then they went to Luminar AI, where they started introducing all the AI stuff, which is really cool. But then what happened there is they took the ability to do layers and masks away. So now there's Luminar Neo, and Luminar Neo allows you to go in and have your masking along with your AI. And they've even added, I haven't even had a chance to play with it, I just loaded it today. They have a new version of an HDR in there that I think would be killer. I don't think there's anything that Luminar puts out that isn't absolutely killer. So, that'll be a video for another day. So anyway, look at your image, break it apart in sections. I think something like this, it's a no-brainer. You go sky, landmass. I could even break it into inner bay and then outer bay, and work on it in sections. And then within those sections, you can work sections. And you can really get a nicely balanced image that's going to be more to your liking than just accepting a global change that you would do in Lightroom. So I'm not trying to put down you Lightroom people who just say I can do everything in Lightroom. Lightroom has made huge advances now with their masking ability. But if you get to a panel like Tony Kuiper, now that you've had your appetite whetted for masks, you get into Tony Kuiper's panels and it's just, you could just select anything. I could go in and create a mask for just one boat if I wanted to. I could create a mask for the whitewater off the top of the waves if I wanted to. I could create a mask just for the cloud up here if I wanted to. That's absolute power over your processing, and that's what masks allow you to do. I'm sorry I don't have an affiliate with Tony. I've known Tony forever. But the affiliates he's cut way back on. I used to have an affiliation. I would hope, Tony, if you're watching this and you want to put me back out on an affiliate, I would love to do it. And but you can, Sean Bagshaw would be an affiliate. And another guy's name is Dave Kelly. He would be an affiliate. Those are two guys I do know that are affiliates with Tony. But I just love working through his panel. And when I do go out and work on even my sharpening or Luminar Neo, I just do it with layer masks, and I can be very precise. Okay, so I think it's time we wrap this up. And July is just about over. In fact, when I release this to my group, we're going to be coming into August. Can't believe it. We have a very busy fall coming up. We have a few openings and a few workshops. Go to my website, donsmithphotography.com, click on the workshop link, send us an email. You can click on the little thumbnails. It'll take you to the pages with frequently asked questions, all the info on the workshops, prices, the whole 9 yards. You don't have to dig very hard. I don't believe in that, making you dig through layers and layers of stuff. It's just all right there. We have a great time on the workshops. Would love to work with you. Barry will be the one you'll deal with, getting you signed up and all the info out to you, handling all the logistics on getting you to the workshops. It's been awesome since she's come on board and helped me out with all of that. Hey, so until next time, I hope you guys get out there. I know it's been summer. We've all been on vacation. The light's not the best in the summer to photograph, but fall's right around the corner. And if you guys are looking for a terrific fall color workshop, I've got still 2 openings for Grand Teton that we're starting September 25th. That'll blow your minds, you guys. That is just one of the most insane workshops. Fall color with the beautiful backdrop of the Grand Teton Range. And we usually always get snow. In fact, every year I've been going out there, I think it's been 8 or 9 years now, we've always had snow on the range out there. It's perfect time to be out in Grand Teton. I have one opening left that we're going to be closing off in 2 weeks from now in both the Scottish Highlands. That's going to be in October, mid-October, and then a couple weeks after that, we head down to Patagonia. I have one spot that came available in that. Check it out on the website. And then, let's see, in December, we added a second Monument Valley workshop. And I believe as of today, we have 2 or 3 openings left on that. That's in December. We already sold out the first one. And we have a second one, and it looks like we're going to go ahead and get a permit. There was some, a little bit of a push by the Navajos to not permit us, but it appears now that we've worked everything out and they are going to permit us. And so that's it. I also have one, I think, coming up in Wisconsin with the Madeline Island School of the Arts, if I can ever get anybody to return a phone call to me or an email. I don't know what's going on there, but I'm sure if you called and got the information, they would call you back. So that's everything that's coming up. And then in January, I'm off with Gary Hart, and we're doing 2 back-to-back Iceland workshops, and that is absolutely incredible. And then in March, we are doing Norway, and I got 4 spots. That's with Ron Madra. Ron was 28 years at Sports Illustrated. He's been doing landscapes for the last 6 years. Hell of a photographer, super nice guy. Boy, he can do it all. He's one of these photographers that just he's a boatload of experience, as I call him. So that's what's coming up. And until next month, we'll be back at you in August. And you guys keep clicking, keep creating, and we hope to talk to you soon.